Coming up on this episode of Flirtations, we're talking about the Enneagram, y'all, with our guest, retired psychotherapist and Enneagram expert, Marilyn Wolf, who will share with us how and why the Enneagram can be a powerful tool for self-awareness and help you develop deeper connections and more fulfilling relationships. We'll start by exploring what the Enneagram is and why it's different from other tools like astrology or even the Myers-Briggs. Then we'll hear about the 9 distinct Enneagram types, including the unique characteristics, motivations, and frustrations of each. Finally, we'll touch on the concept of wings in the Enneagram and where you can begin your own journey if you're new and curious. So, I hope you'll join us for an enlightening conversation that will help you navigate your relationships with more awareness and intention. Let's do this, flirties.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Flirties, we're going to be talking about the gram today, but not the Instagram, the other gram, the Enneagram, with our special guest, Marilyn Wolf, a retired psychotherapist who has counseled couples, individuals, and led small groups in her career. Hello, Marilyn, and welcome.
Hey, Benji, how are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to get into this conversation today about the Enneagram and how you can use it as a tool in your dating lives, in your relationships to ultimately develop, I think, cultivate stronger connections. Because that's
absolutely,
goodness gracious, that's what we're all about here on Flirtations. So I want to ask you here at the top if you'd like to share a little bit more about yourself and your work with the Flirties.
Sure. Well, I started studying the Enneagram in 2000 and just absolutely became convinced of its usefulness in helping us to understand ourselves and to understand others and to navigate our lives with more self-awareness, more sensitivity. And I've used it in my life in that way, and I worked with individuals in my psychotherapy practice and couples. And then when I retired as a psychotherapist in 2014, I started a program which was within my practice, offering classes and workshops and retreats and many topics, but one of which is the Enneagram and has always been a very popular topic. People love to come to workshops, and I've got a study group that's been meeting for about 7 years now. We meet quarterly, and there's a group of 5 who's been in it the entire time, and other folks have kind of come and gone. I've led weekend retreats. I've done staff development workshops, only to say how to tell you about the broad appeal and usefulness of the Enneagram.
So good. And we're going to be definitely getting into the what and the why and the how, answering a lot of your questions today. The Flirties came through with questions, of course, talking about how the Enneagram can help you in your dating life, no matter where you are with your own level of awareness of what the Enneagram is. If you have some awareness, some knowledge of it, you're curious, you played with it before, worked with it before, you're like, what? Where do I even start? We got you. So
it's a lot of information.
Yes, it's a lot of information. This is definitely going to be, we're going to give everyone some of the basics today, but for that deeper dive, right, then linking some resources, some places people can go, some people to reference, Instagram pages, more websites, that kind of thing, books, of course.
People are always surprised once they get into the Enneagram how complex it is as you peel away the layers.
Yes, it is.
You can start at the surface and just learn how to describe yourself. Which is not a bad thing to do. That can be useful. But when you start going down into all the dynamics of the Enneagram and going further and further down, it's extremely complex. I call it a bottomless well.
Yeah. It is complex. I think
Yeah.
maybe a few of those five members you mentioned are my family, my dad and stepmom, who have been
That's right.
engaged with the Enneagram for a long time. If you come to our house and glance at the bookshelf, there are quite a few reference books. I remember taking the Enneagram quiz or test, maybe
Yeah.
assessment,
Yeah.
many years ago. So I have some awareness, but even for me, I dabble in it here and there. It is, you're right, very complex. So much to learn. So I think let's start with this question: why the Enneagram? Because when you're out there, you're dating, or you're just looking for resources, you're looking to make connections. There's the chakra system, there's astrology, there's manifestation, there's the Myers-Briggs personality test, right? There's so many tools out there to learn more about yourself, to learn more about potential partners. So why the Enneagram?
People ask that a lot. I
Thank
studied the Myers-Briggs in graduate school, and I liked it very much.
you.
But it wasn't something that had long-lasting appeal for me. And when I found
Okay.
the Enneagram, it was a whole different story.
Yeah.
So why the Enneagram? Well, why do any of these, actually? Why engage in any of this?
Yeah.
I think it's because people have a fundamental desire to know themselves
Yeah.
and to understand themselves and to know, why am I not responding to this situation the way you are?
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you value this the way I value this?
Yep.
And because those questions come up in all of our relationships,
Yeah.
not just romantic relationships. They come up immediately when we're born into a family system. Why does this culture prevail when I'm a creative type, but I see that there's this very linear dynamic in my family. I can't be seen, I can't be heard. Why? That the question comes back to why. So the Enneagram is a map. I call it a map. That helps us to explore who we are and how we show up in the world and why we show up that way.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond just describing. How would be describing. Why gets into motivation.
Okay.
And I think that's why the Enneagram has such broad appeal, is because it helps us to understand what's driving this behavior.
Yeah.
What's underneath this belief
Yeah.
that I have about myself and the world. And once people go down to that layer, beyond just being able to describe myself or trying to guess what other people's types are, which people do all the time,
Yes.
then it becomes a real map for waking up.
Okay.
Waking up for how we show up in the world and why. And then we can start to make choices.
Yeah.
We start to understand that I'm not locked into this one path of response. I've got a wide repertoire of choices here.
Yep.
And we may need help getting unstuck from patterns.
Absolutely.
But we still have choice as to how we can respond. And the Enneagram, because there are 9 types in the Enneagram, offers us 9 different ways of responding to a situation. So it's a very dynamic and organic kind of system. I can move around the Enneagram. I mean, I have a type. I'm located at a point on that circle, but all the other points are available to me. I can get there. I can go around the circle. I can cut across the circle on one of the straight lines.
Yeah.
And yet I've still got a home base,
Okay.
which is my type.
Yep.
And types that are more influential than others, but they're all available to me. So it just becomes this incredible pool of resources for us to be able to draw on. And when people get guidance on how to do that, most of the people I've worked with, they become Enneagram devotees.
Yeah. From what I know, it is super interesting. And we're going to get into some of the more a little bit nitty gritty details of the Enneagram now, but really just echoing what you just said. It's like how the Enneagram came to be really about elevating our consciousness, our understanding, not just about what sort of habits or beliefs we have or how we move about the world, how we make connections, how we date, but why. really getting into the essence of who we are. What are our motivations? What's
Mhm.
important to us? What do we truly believe? And I think those are questions that a lot of daters are asking themselves. These are questions I hear all the time, where if you were maybe taught or led to believe that you have to date a certain way, that relationships look a certain way, right? Where there's definitely some shifting in consciousness out there in the dating world. And so I love that the Enneagram can be a tool just to help us understand ourselves better, right?
Right,
Raise
exactly.
our own consciousness.
And to understand that you are not like me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we fall in love with people because of our what we think we have in common. Oh, you're a
Yeah.
Virgo, I'm a Virgo. Oh,
Yeah.
you're from the West Coast, I'm from the West Coast. We seek out the similarities.
Sure.
Then but it's our differences that are eventually going to show up. And that's what causes the friction, but that's what allows for growth.
Right. Right.
Working through those differences. And the Enneagram is such a great map for helping us to reframe those differences in a way that's not personal.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get there because this is where I got a few questions from the flirties. But I think want to ask you this one now from a flirty who's just curious where to start with the Enneagram. I think we've given them some good context about where to start. And now we've been alluding to the 9 types.
Right.
So maybe, mentioning now, what are the 9 types in the Enneagram map?
Okay. I'll go snagged on your question of where's a good place to start. And so the
okay.
9 types is a good place to start. But can I mention a book?
Absolutely, yes.
At this point, there's a little book called The Essential Enneagram. It's by David Daniels. And I mean, it's like, well, your listeners can't see, but
you're kind of like pinching your fingers together.
Yeah.
It's a small book. Yeah.
It's a small book. It's not intimidating at all. And it doesn't scream out, here, become a scholar of the Enneagram.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to begin. Give you a lot of broad information and some little tests you can take to start narrowing down your type.
Okay.
I tell everybody that I come in contact with, start with that book.
Yes.
But there are other books like The Wisdom of the Enneagram and The Complete Enneagram, and they're this thick and they are intimidating.
Yeah.
And can be overwhelming for people. So I've experienced people so I started with The Wisdom of the Enneagram, and it was just so much information, I just got confused and I just kind of gave it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that can happen too. So the question, the 9 types. Well, the Enneagram is exactly what it says it is. Ennea, E-N-N-E-A, is Greek for 9. And gram really means graph.
Okay.
And so it's a graph of 9, and it's a graph of 9 personality styles. I can just mention a couple of traits of each type. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's the way to do it. Benji, I keep thinking about how much information I'm trying to distill down into.
I know it's a difficult, it's a broad topic. I know it's because as you say, it's this sort of, deep, endless well, and you've been having these groups with your communities and meeting for, 5 years, and that's going to continue. And there's always something new to learn, always something new.
Right. Exactly.
Because we're also, as people, always evolving. We're always changing. And so your relationship with the Enneagram and with your type is going to be dynamic, of course. This is why some of this work is lifelong. But I hope this is going to give the flirties maybe an introduction into the Enneagram, or they've got some awareness, they've got some curiosity. Allow this to be a starting point, if you will, to go deeper.
Yeah, I really hope so. Enneagram is not anything to be scared of. So,
it's not. Yeah, start with that book by
David Daniels.
David Daniels, yes, the Daniels that you mentioned. I have that one, and it is super accessible. Yeah. It's a fantastic entry point.
Right. The Essential Enneagram. Yeah. There's even the Enneagram for Dummies and Enneagram Made Simple. There you can go into it from any angle that you want to. Also, just I have a disclaimer.
Okay.
The Enneagram is not a substitute for psychotherapy.
Good disclaimer. Yeah. Yeah.
It can be a wonderful adjunct, but it's not a substitute.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important to clear up. With that said, for the 9 types, I'll just start with number 1.
Sounds good.
Number 1 is called the Perfecter The reformer, they like for things to be just so.
Yes.
They want things to be perfect. And their frustration is that things can never be perfect, that the pursuit is never ending. And because each type has a frustration. But the beauty of the one is that they see what needs to be fixed in a situation, and they go about fixing it.
Okay.
Now, that can be complicated in a relationship.
Yeah. Maybe.
I see in you. Yeah, I see in you what needs to be fixed. Come here, let me fix you.
Yeah.
That can be problematic. The type 2 is called the helper or the giver or the pleaser. Different names from different teachers. They are driven by the desire to help and be of service and to please others. And so they look for situations and people where their help is needed. They have the seeds of compassion deep inside of them, but they can also be overbearing in their desire to help. And their need to help. They have a need to help. And so they can, they think they see a need that's not there.
Yeah.
Or the other person doesn't want that help.
Yeah.
And then the 2 would say, well, I'm only trying to help. And the other person says, well, I didn't ask for your help. And so that's a frustration that the 2 experiences in life is that
I'll say I'm a 2. So there.
You are?
Yes, the flirties know I am a 2. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I thought you were 3.
That's my wing, and we'll get to the wings in a minute.
Yeah. The 3 is the performing type. They are achievement oriented. They are performance oriented. They like to win. They have a competitive streak, and they like to win. They like to. Well, that can be show offs. And
maybe I am a 3. After all, maybe it's a 3 with a 2 wing.
I've got a lot of 3 in me.
Yeah.
The 3s get overly identified with their achievements, and they forget that they are not their achievements. You know, you've heard the expression, I am what I do.
Yeah.
That's pretty normal for us to become super identified with our fields and our professions and talents. But the 3 can even lose sight of themselves as a human being because they're so identified with what they've accomplished.
Right.
With what they've done. And if they don't get the acknowledgement that they feel they need for what they have done, they can almost feel invisible.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot.
Yeah, and so the 3's work is around just learning how to be. And I mean, that's a challenge for all of us, but to recognize I'm not my PhD, I'm me. Or I'm not the person who won the award. There is something beneath the person who won the award called me.
Right. Yeah, it's maybe some of the challenge of the 3, and because I definitely have some of this, is it's almost sort of look over here, look at this, look at what I'm doing, when you really just want to be seen for maybe your true desire, your true motivation, what you're trying to figure out for yourself, which may be to help, which may be to serve, which may be just to put a smile on someone's face, sort of what the internal true why motivation is. Meanwhile, everyone's looking at, the grade, the job, the raise, whatever. Right. And you're so focused on that as a way to derive validation, feel good about yourself, purpose. But absent of that, who are you? What drives you? What motivates you when the external maybe, fades away or doesn't come?
Right.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Exactly. And that's kind of a cultural situation that we're in to begin with.
Absolutely.
Because as a country, we're so identified with our achievements and accomplishments.
In the U.S., 100%.
In the U.S., right. Mm-hmm. Some have said that, the United States is a 3 country.
I would believe that completely. Hustle, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? American dream kind of thing. Right. But ultimately, what do people really want, and what is fulfilling? It's connections, it's love, it's safety in relationships. I think some of that a lot of that gets overlooked.
Yeah, to love and be loved.
Oh my gosh, core need that we all have. And because the flirt community is truly global. So I know flirties all over the world will relate to that.
Right. Type 4 is considered the romantic or the individualist.
Okay.
And they have a need to be special.
Mm.
And they have a need to bring something real meaningful into the world. And so they don't tolerate small talk very
Okay.
well. They're
Uh-huh.
always going for the deep dive, and
Yes.
they're always looking for the meaning. They're
Hmm.
the meaning makers of the Enneagram. And I've heard them also called the deep sea divers.
Yeah. Okay.
And if there's no meaning to be made, a 4 can just feel like they're untethered and they're flying off into space because they want something to have, to have meaning and to have depth and purpose.
Right.
And if a situation doesn't have that, which is perfectly okay, but the 4 might work really hard to try to bring some meaning to a situation, and that can be very annoying.
Yeah.
Freud said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Well, a 4 is like, oh, no, we got to talk about why the cigar and why, how did this happen and
I can.
what's
Yeah.
the meaning of this and what's the
Mm.
symbolism associated with this. 4s are meaning makers, and they can bring something beautiful to a situation, and they can also insert a kind of depth that the situation doesn't call for.
I can see that maybe being the frustration that partners of 4s experience.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Type 5 is we'd say they're sort of the intellectual. They're the observer, they're the investigator, they stay back and watch, and they have fabulous powers of perception. The 5s approach life pretty dispassionately, with
Okay.
detachment. They
Okay.
don't get too caught up emotionally in what's going on, and that's because they're able to stand back and watch before they step onto the court. They sit back and watch and see the game and how it's being played, and they can appear to be disinterested and aloof
Okay.
because they're such great observers. And that's not to
Yeah.
say sometimes a 5 isn't aloof, but 5s can also be extremely kind.
Okay.
They're wonderful listeners, and I have found 5s to be extremely perceptive.
Okay.
Because they aren't in the mess, they're outside the mess looking to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And yet people complain that the 5s aren't available to them. They're not emotionally available.
Okay. So, yeah, I can see how dating that would be. They're more observing, thinking,
Right.
sort of maybe waiting to really bring meaning to the conversation as opposed to just talking with small talk. Or no, you said that was more the 4, but I can see how the frustration might come up with dating a 5. Like, what's happened? What are you thinking about? Right?
Right.
Just talk to me.
Well, the 5, you said something about meaning, and then you said, no, that's the 4. Well, the 5 is very much that way too.
Okay.
Here's a difference between the 4 and the 5 that I think is important. The 5 kind of likes to hoard knowledge. The 4 is more inclined to share it.
Okay.
Because the 4 wants to contribute to make the world a more meaningful, better, purposeful place.
Yes.
The 5 is more like, if I know it and I understand it, that's enough.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a big difference.
They're kind of the kid in class who knows the answer but doesn't bother to raise his or her hand because, well, if I know it, then why do I have to even answer the question? I know it. That kind of kid. And I've known people like that, but 5s will take a subject and study it with precision. They'll have 100 books on a topic, like on the Enneagram.
Yep.
Like me. I'm going to show you my bookshelf here. I've got 2 devoted to the Enneagram. And then the 6, let me say this too as a disclaimer. I am giving you a thumbnail of these types. They are so much more complex.
Yeah.
Than this. So please, everybody, listeners, keep that in mind that I am skimming the surface.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. 6. The 6 is called the loyalist or the skeptic, the loyal skeptic. They are the types in the Enneagram that always looking for what could go wrong. They're very cautious. They can be cautious to the point that you feel like you're going to pull your hair out.
Okay.
Well, let's plan a picnic. Well, it could rain. Ooh, okay. Yeah, it could. Um, let's. You want to go to the movies tomorrow afternoon? Well, that movie's only been out a couple days. The theater's going to be really, really crowded, and you know how theaters. Okay, all right, we'll wait to go see that movie. It's like they can, the expression Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Says they are so good at anticipating what could go wrong, but they're also can rain on people's parades.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so be careful. So their caution is really useful. If you're going to take a trip, a 6 is a good person to have along.
Okay.
Because they're going to have everything you need from the safety pin to the map.
Yeah.
They have already charted out the path probably, and then figured out where can we stop to get something to drink, and here's where we stop for gas. And
yeah.
So their challenge is in reeling it back in and then just enjoying what they're doing without thinking about what could go wrong.
Yeah.
And having sort of being in a state of doubt or even outright fear and anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. I can start to see with that example some of the ways the Enneagram types complement one another.
Absolutely.
Where the 6 can be really a great pairing for someone, a type that is more into being, right? Kind of has that present moment mindset, is able to calm the 6 down, perhaps, but really acknowledge where they're coming from, acknowledge maybe the fear, anxiety, the insecurities, express gratitude, right? When the 6 is really stepping up. And like, I know I'm taking the 6 on a camping trip. We're not going to lack for anything. And these skills are really valuable because they're not skills that I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy. Like that's my plan is, there's always tomorrow. My plan is let's see what happens. And so this is where I could really benefit from some of the skills innately present in a 6.
Absolutely. 6s are very steady. They don't sound like they would be because they can be very fear-based, but they're also very steady. I mean, they're called the loyalist and the skeptic. And so it's easier to talk about the skeptic part, but the loyal part means exactly what it says. 6s are very loyal and they can be loyal to a fault. But if you violate trust, 6 usually just, that's it, done here.
Done.
Because it's so important that I be able to predict. And if you violated my trust, then that fear that you could do it again doesn't go away.
Right.
So they make wonderful, wonderful, loyal friends. And they're also really good judges of character.
Yeah.
The 6 has a lot of paradox in it.
Okay.
Too. So I value the 6s in my life as long as they aren't too heavy-handed on my dreams.
Fair enough.
And then there's the 7.
The 7, yes.
7 is called the enthusiast, the adventurer, the epicure. They want to experience everything, and they want to do it right now. And they are filled with joy and fun, and woohoo, let's have a party.
Yes.
And that's wonderful, but sometimes a situation is not right for levity. Sometimes the 7s make a joke when it's like, I don't think I'd have said that. And they do that because of their own discomfort, of course, and that's what they think that they're supposed to do.
Okay.
But I haven't even gotten into how these types develop these beliefs about how they're supposed to be. That's a whole nother chapter.
Yes.
But the 7s want people to have fun and be happy. And so they seek out, they're driven by the desire to be happy.
Okay.
And then people will say, well, what's wrong with that? Doesn't everybody want to be happy? Well, the 6 might say, well, if I'm not safe, I'm not going to be happy. And the 2 might say, if I'm helping others, I'm happy. But if I'm being selfish, I'm not going to be happy. Something comes first that brings the happiness for all the types, except that the 7 wants to be happy for happy's sake.
I see.
Don't worry, be happy. And on the one hand, that's a lot to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
To have a 7 in your life. And on the other hand, it can be crazy making.
Yeah.
Because you're in a situation that's really great and they're thinking about what you're going to do next.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard a 7 say, he does big adventures, and he went on a dog sledding trip up in Canada with a friend. And it was wonderful and it was fabulous. And on the way home from Canada, he was already thinking about this great scuba trip he was going to take.
Yeah.
Scuba diving trip he was going to be doing in the Bahamas and what they could do next. And so it's like, well, you got to slow this down a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that would be really beneficial. I mean, for someone like me, to be with someone who's a little bit more spontaneous can bring some excitement into a connection, into a relationship. But then being able to balance that where like I might feel overwhelmed with that kind of energy or that approach from the 7. Like it might be overstimulating to me. And so when I get into that space, I start to shut down and I start to withdraw and I start to retreat. And so can the 7, right? Here's where we go, navigating some of those differences, but having the self-awareness of using the tool using the Enneagram as a tool, very helpful.
Yeah. The 7 can be accused of being frenetic and shallow because they will go from interest to interest to interest, or they change jobs or they change careers. That's not because they're flaky and shallow. It's because they want to do something new and different. And they will bring all of their gifts to that pursuit while they're in that pursuit. Yeah. And then they decide they want to do something else. Right. And then they'll bring everything that they have to that. So that's every type kind of has a caricature of it. And so some people will think of the 7 as being shallow. I led a retreat one time with a guy who's a 7, and we had so much fun. We laughed so hard trying to pull off this very sort of deep spiritual retreat. And it was a blast. And they're very different, A 7 and a 4 can look really different. Oh, I'm a 4, by the way. 7 and a 4 can look very different, but that gets us into type pairings. So I won't go down that road right now. Okay, so the 8.
Number 8.
Number 8 is called the challenger. The dominator. Those are, they're also rescuers. They're hero types. They're larger than life, and they live life large. Lust for life. They're intense, and they want contact. And they aren't usually very happy if things aren't intense.
Yeah.
And so they can be domineering. They can be, but they make great leaders at the same time. Right. They can take a situation and say, this thing is out of control. I am getting it under control. This is what we're doing, people. Well, they bring safety in that way to a situation, too, because you feel like an 8 can take on anything.
Yeah.
They're very strong, and they have very strong personalities. I like the 7 who wants the buffet. They want to sample everything on the buffet. The 8 is more the type that wants the best steak on the menu, the best brandy. They don't need the big buffet, but what they want it to have a big impact. They want a big wow out of whatever they do. But they can scare people.
I see. Kind of a more of a maybe looks like that type A, and so maybe someone could take that as more controlling, right? Controlling. If they're not, asking questions, maybe, oh, how do you feel? What do you want? Checking in, kind of thing. And if an 8's dating someone that is, maybe not as honest or forthcoming with just their own thoughts, feelings, emotions, the 8 may just run the show.
And 8s don't want to be vulnerable.
Oh.
Their value is in their strength.
In their strength, I see.
Right. So they don't want, they have a hard time being vulnerable. And yet what's true about 8s that I've discovered is that they have great big hearts.
Yeah.
They're very generous. They can be, they're like the proverbial teddy bear dressed up like a grizzly bear.
I see.
Yes. Kind of thing. 8s are like Superman.
Okay.
I love this about the 8. They will swoop in to rescue. They're not helpers like the 2.
Yeah.
Fixers like the 1. They're rescuers. They swoop in, they fix the situation up, and then they disappear like Superman. And everybody's like, who was that? Who was that? Because the 8s don't need a whole lot of glory. It's a paradox,
Very different than the 3, right? That achievement, wanting the recognition. The 8's like, let me do my thing.
Let me do my thing. And if you try to lavish the 8 with a lot of gratitude, they really blow it off. They're They pull for the underdog and they don't have to be thanked for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Because 8s get the rap of being a bully.
Right.
And
See that.
that's a caricature. That's just a caricature. Okay, type 9.
We're on, one more. Type 9.
I know, I'll tell you. Type 9 is the peacemaker.
Peacemaker, okay.
Mediator. They want everybody's agenda to be recognized and met. It's not so much about meeting the need as it is about wanting to go along, to get along, and make sure that your agenda needs are met. So what do you want? What movie do you want to go see?
Okay.
Whereas the 2 is more like Johnny on the spot with a casserole if somebody's sick. The 9 is more like, what do you want to do for dinner?
Yeah.
And you say to the 9, what movie would you like to see? Oh, it doesn't matter. You choose. Do you want to go to the beach or the mountains for the weekend? Oh, I'm happy either place. You choose. Well, that's all fine and good until you're sick of choosing.
Yeah.
Because if you refuse to choose, there's no risk. And the 9s are risk avoidant and conflict avoidant, and they want to go along to get along. So on the one hand, they're very gentle people. They tend to be very peaceful. They have a wonderful, peaceful energy about them. But at the same time, it's kind of like, are you here?
Yeah.
Where are you? I'm reaching into the fog trying to find you.
It's exhausting for one person in a relationship to make all the choices every time. Then it's about, well, you start to maybe, where are you? Are you here? Or who am I? I don't know how I can really meet your needs or what you want. If you're not telling me, if everything's just, what you want. No, I want to know what you want too.
Right. And everything's always fine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. So you can't have an argument with them. And sometimes there needs to be an argument if you know how to argue, if you can fight fair and be safe and all that. There's going to be conflict, but 9s won't engage. And so it's really hard to settle a conflict with a 9 because they don't want to go there.
Right.
They are motivated by being peaceful and helping to create a peaceful situation.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be upset inside or outside.
Right. It makes a lot of sense. And I mean, just throughout this conversation, sharing about the 9 types, so many follow-up questions. In the time we have remaining, touching on the wings here, kind of a wrap-up question to conclude the conversation, make sure and send the flirties to some resources where they can learn more, take the Enneagram assessment for themselves. But yeah, I mean, just some thoughts I'm having are, is your Enneagram type, you were talking about how you come to be a certain type. Like I'm thinking about for the people pleaser or for the person that has experienced trauma where maybe they now go into a type 9, right? Because that's just where they're most comfortable, but maybe their true nature, who they really are, is more of a 3 or a 4 or a 1. And so just some thoughts and questions that are coming up now. I know the flirties are probably having some of these thoughts too, but the wings. Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I don't know how much time we've got, but I do want to say something about relationships, since that's your world. That's helping people with their relationships. I think that it's a mistaken idea that 2s get along well with 7s and 6s get along well with 9s. It's kind of like, astrological types.
Yeah.
You want 2 fire signs or 2 water signs together. The approach to the Enneagram that I take is know yourself first, because it doesn't matter what type the other person is. If I'm not self-aware and I haven't done my own work, I'm going to be difficult to be in a relationship regardless of what type I am. So it's not about, okay, I'm a 3, and so therefore I can't get in a relationship with a 7, and I shouldn't be in a relationship with a 1. It's about how self-aware we are, how awake we are to our own needs and the needs of others. That's what matters the most.
Yeah.
So people ask that a lot in workshops is, which types are best in relationships. I think that's the wrong question. I think the question is, how can I be who I am in a relationship and receive and accept and honor you for who you are
Yeah.
in a relationship. And so that's where really getting to know yourself. And if you know what your partner's type is, really getting to know that type
Yeah.
to find out what makes them tick and what makes them hurt and what makes them happy. That's my little sermon on.
Oh, that's a really good point, because I got a couple of these questions from the flirties. One was, are certain types more compatible with one versus the, certain pairings, have more likelihood to succeed. And then I also got the question of, well, I'm not in a relationship. I'm not even really dating. Does this still apply to me? And I think you answered both of those questions. It starts with you and whether or not you're dating in a relationship or taking a break right now. I think this is still a fantastic tool you can use to learn more about yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of it. And there's nothing more wonderful in relationship than for both people to be involved in the Enneagram. When both people are, like your father and stepmother, they are both committed to learning about themselves using the Enneagram. It gives them a language.
Yes.
That they can use. And one person can say, that's right. Okay. You're a 1. That's why that matters to you. That's why that's irritating to you. Okay, I got it. Understand. That means it's always going to be easy just because but it gives you a place to start. I mean, it's invaluable to me in my relationship with my husband and my friends and my sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. This translates not just into your romantic partnerships or romantic connections, but your connections all across the board with family, friends, of course, the connection with yourself, as we've been talking about. Yeah,
right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the wings. Do you want me to say something about that?
Yeah, something about the wings, because I alluded to it, and I know there's going to be at least one flirty. Like, they didn't talk about the wings.
Okay, here we go. I feel like I'm on. Feel like I've had a lot of caffeine or something. The wings are the types on either side of your type, literally. So you picture the circle with the 9 types all around, with 1 at the top and 4 and 5 kind of holding on at the bottom. So your type is literally the number to the left and the right of your type. So I'm a 4. I have a 3 wing and a 5 wing.
Okay.
Benji, if you're a 3, you have a 4 wing and a 2 wing.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't have to go around the circle to illustrate this.
Yes.
The wings, I think, are very important. Some people don't pay a lot of attention to the wings and teach much about it. I think they're very important because they're always there. They're a constant influence on the way that our type shows up. An analogy I use are 3 paint colors. So you've got 3 primary colors, yellow, blue, and red. And if let's say I'm yellow, and type 3 is blue. Okay, remember I'm 4, I'm yellow. Type 3 is blue. You bring a little bit of blue into that yellow, what do you get? Green. Okay. Type 5 is red. That's my other wing. Bring a little bit of that red into that yellow, what do you get? You got orange.
Yeah.
But they're still yellow. You can't have orange or green without yellow.
Right.
That core type is always there, but how much influence the 3 is having on me would show up as how much green is there, because the blue is overlapping the yellow, or the red is overlapping the yellow and becoming orange. And it can vary. I have a very strong 3 wing publicly. I mean, doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I love to perform, and I have performed as a vocalist, and I like to achieve. I like to accomplish stuff. That's not my primary driver, though.
Right. Okay.
But I do enjoy that. And I've got a strong 5 wing because I've got, 55 books on the Enneagram, and I've been teaching and I study, and anything that I get involved with, I study it deep. And I also have to have a lot of time alone, like a friend does.
Yeah.
And I'm a good observer. So I can see both of those at work in me, and they're there all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't come and go. So if you think of the circle and think of, instead of 9 discrete numbers, think of it more as like those numbers are all blending together.
Yeah.
So that 9's running a little over into 1, and 1's running a little over into 2. And it's like if I was painting it, it would be all the colors kind of swirling around in there together.
Yeah.
So my 3 wing is always available and it's always operational,
Yeah.
as is my 5 wing.
Yes.
And that makes the Enneagram more complicated.
Yeah, just slightly. It's
Yeah.
already it's a lot of information. But I love, as you were sharing earlier in the conversation, that it's become more user friendly, that there's more resources that you can start with. Just get that entry point, right? Where you're at, where is your curiosity with the Enneagram. And I think we've given the Flirties lots of good information today. And for someone that is, anyone listening that is unsure or hasn't heard of this before, I think they know where to start, and they're probably curious what their type is.
Oh, sure. And the EnneagramInstitute.com is a wonderful resource. It has a great test on it that you can take that I think is very, very accurate. And then we'll give you printouts of all the information that you need to understand your type. And you get relative scores. You get a score in each type. So it doesn't just say, oh, you're a 7. It tells you what your relative score is in each type, which can be really useful.
Definitely.
Also, with the Flirties, there is a section on this website about types in relationship.
Cool.
So it's like 1 with a 2, 1 with a 3, 1 with a 4. You can click on it and get a whole page on how those 2 types work together and what is great about that combination and what might be troublesome about that combination. That is a very, very useful tool. Yeah. And then you'll see that there's no one perfect type.
Yeah.
Okay. My husband's a 1, so it's not like 1's the perfect type for me. It's like now I can work with how the 4 and the 1 work together.
Yes.
Where do we complement each other? How do we really help each other? And where do we bump up against each other?
Yeah.
Because he's a 1.
Yeah.
Those same questions would be applicable if he were a 6 or an 8 or a 2.
So
the exact same questions.
I know a lot of the Flirties are looking for, just tell me that perfect pairing. Tell me the perfect, I want to know my number. I want to know my type. And so I can know exactly what my perfect match is. And I can ask on that first date, what type are you? We take the test together. And what you're saying is that's not exact. There is no perfect pairing. It's more about how can we use the Enneagram as a tool for communication to deepen this connection, deepen our partnership, learn how to love one another, appreciate one another, admire one another's strengths, but also recognize each other's differences too, and navigate perhaps those points of conflict. So I love that we've been able to have this conversation today. I'm going to make sure we have lots of links, or resources rather, linked in the show notes here for this episode. So you can come and you can go and take the quiz. If you'd like to purchase a book, learn more about the Enneagram, for sure. Marilyn,
I have 2 colleagues. I keep interrupting you because I have so much I want to say, but I have 2 colleagues who do workshops for couples.
Fantastic.
And I'm sure there are people all over the country, all over the world doing that kind of stuff too. So it's out there. Whatever you want to know about the Enneagram, it is out there.
Yeah. And your colleagues at either local in North Carolina?
One's in Asheville, one's in Charlotte.
Cool.
There are people all over the place doing.
Yeah. But I mean, since you're on Flirtations, I'm going to make sure and have those workshops for any local Flirties in the Southeast, or perhaps even here in North Carolina, where we're both, recording this, can attend an in-person workshop. This has been really, really incredible, as I know this was there can be an entire podcast solely dedicated to the Enneagram, and those podcasts exist because it's something you could talk about, where there's just always something new to learn, something new to uncover, a new connection to make. But my idea here today was to really talk about the what, the how, the why, go into the types, the wings, and I hope give the Flirties a resource just to make those connections, right? What it's all about.
Right, to love and be loved.
Oh my gosh.
Love and be
absolutely. Marilyn Wolf, thank you so much. Any final words or parting insights for the Flirties today?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I would say this. I'm just one person.
Yeah.
You could hear a presentation by lots of different Enneagram professionals, and you would hear slightly different things. And that's okay because there
Yeah.
are some basics that are going to be true across the board, but you're going to have some different perspectives on it. So, vary who you read, workshops that you go to. You can learn from lots of different people in lots of different ways. I am only one person. I am not the final word by any means. Not that anybody thought I was, but I just wanted to say
one person, but
I'm just one person talking about the Enneagram.
A lot of knowledge and wisdom and insight into the Enneagram. So thank you, Marilyn, so much for being a part of the show today and sharing so much with the Flirties.
Thank you, Benji. Thank you, Flirties. Bye.
Flirties, that is a wrap on the Enneagram episode of Flirtations with Marilyn Wolf. Thank you to Marilyn. Thank you, Marilyn, for coming on the show today and sharing so much wisdom and insight with us. If you truly do want to learn more, please head to the show notes of this episode where you'll see resources linked where you can go and take your own Enneagram assessment, find out your type, your wings, or if you're already there, maybe you put pause on this episode and went and already did it and you want to work with a practitioner or professional, attend an in-person workshop, you just want to follow along to a fun account or with a fun account online, Instagram, something like that, head to the show notes. More for you there. And thank you, yes, Flirty, for listening, for tuning in, for streaming wherever you may be in the world. Yes, it's always an honor and a pleasure to bring you these episodes, and I thank you so much for listening. All right, I will see you soon on the socials or talk to you, yes, with you, hang out with you in the next Flirtation. Signing off officially here at Flirt Headquarters. My name is Benjamin. I'm the Flirt Coach and Gay Libra Flirty. Happy flirting.